Welcome to episode 8 of the Stacia Kennedy Show, where I interview my friend and mentor, Jessica Riverson. She is your permission to charge mentor, and we talk about charging your worth in your business. Hey everybody, welcome to the Stacia Kennedy Show. I'm so excited. This one is super special. I always say that I'm super excited and special, but this is a special introduction that I want to share with you. I'm throwing out the bio because she has a very similar story to mine. We're both single moms at a very young age, and we got into business. Became entrepreneurs. Like the motherly instinct just like kicked in, and we said we got to go do something and be resourceful. And I will tell you, Jessica Riverson, who is one of my not only online besties, but we also actually lived in the same neighborhood. And we connected at a networking event, which I always tell you guys, highly recommend in-person networking, not just online. But we met at a networking event, actually her networking event, and then we've been best friends ever since. She is your permission to charge mentor, and I want to introduce Jessica Riverson. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, Stacia, thank you for having me. You are definitely one of my friends and business besties. And we have such a similar story of like having kids so young and becoming entrepreneurs. And we both have like a grown child, man-child basically, and a little toddler daughter, and we're both really close in age. So yeah, exactly. It's pretty rare to find like a soulmate sister like that has such a similar story.
Whoa. Awesome. Yes, our paths have gone a similar track, but we got our shit together now. We got remarried. Married our soulmates and have new baby girls, and they're awesome and it's amazing. But I'm bringing on Jessica. Actually, she's the first one for July here. We're in July of 2018 here, depending on when you guys are watching this video. But I wanted to start bringing in moms who create freedom online, and Jessica was one of the moms that came to mind. Especially we're talking about freedom and creating freedom in your business. She helps people create that kind of freedom because we want to charge what we're worth, and in order to create freedom and be able to do the things that we want to do, we need to do that. So Jessica, she's a well-known expert in business. She's owned several businesses, and why don't you tell them a little bit more about your story and how you became a permission to charge mentor?
Sure. And I was just sharing this out just so you're like, why, who's she talking? Sharing this out because this is such an important message that Stacia and I have to share. So a little bit about me. I always try not to go too far back because it can be a long story. But how did I get to be an entrepreneur? So something crazy happens when you're like 18 and you have a kid. You realize that you need to get yourself together. I actually had a work from home job that I've been working from home since I was 19, which is so basically my entire adult life. It's kind of something unique about me. And so by working at home I worked for a company, but I was an independent contractor. And so I was paid on production. And I was always entrepreneurial when I was younger, lemonade stands and stuff like that. But when I was working from home and being paid on production, I realized, I could work more or faster and better and make more in less time, and I can make my own hours. Okay, this is cool. So that was kind of what started it. And so by the time I was, I guess I was 25 is when I ended up selling my house that I had purchased with my job. And I took all that money, or some of the money, and I bought a franchise when I was 25, and I've had that for 13 years. And so, but while I was building this franchise and running that, I got into coaching. And I think I was actually 21 when I got into coaching. So I was into coaching all through my 20s. It was an expensive hobby, right? Like, you all know how that goes. It was an expensive hobby, and I loved it. I loved being coached and being mentored. I loved helping other people. In fact, when I was in college, I'm a college dropout, but when I was in college, I was pursuing being a counselor. So I was always going to do this type of work. And after about 10 years of doing coaching and running a business, I decided I want to combine those things. And so basically, long story short is I decided to become a business coach because that's something that I had been pursuing and really getting good at, growing a business. And I ended up helping all these people that I was kind of coaching, sort of like I said, as an expensive hobby, who were business owners. And so it just made sense for me to get some additional training and really launch myself as a business coach. However, my hardest thing was the charging my worth part. And I got really stuck on that. And I had to do a lot of deep work to get through that because my first business was relatively easy to build. When I started my coaching business, and after the first year, I only made $7,000, I was really devastated because it wasn't, hey, Tracy, because it wasn't profitable. And so I spent a couple years working on the money stuff and the confidence, all the stuff that we're going to talk about today. And when I finally turned that around, that's when I said, okay, there's a lot of coaches, healers, creative people that love to help people, and they're not making money that matches the impact that they make, and they're frustrated like I was. So I ended up taking my whole business coaching business and just niching it down into helping people with their pricing and their packaging and their money stuff. So in a nutshell, sparing you some of the gory details, that's basically what led me to brand as permission to charge.
Yeah, we're at a speaking event and permission to charge. I really
yes. Yeah, I didn't even come up with it. It was an awesome woman named Carrie, and I was talking about charging your worth, and she just blurted it out, and I was like, that's it. Permission to charge. I've trademarked it and basically built my whole business on teaching people this concept. And what I do goes beyond that, but that's where it begins. That's where I connect with people because they go, oh, yes, I'm not charging my worth. I always tell people it's a gut check. If you're not, you can feel it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what do people do when they feel that feeling? What is the first thing, that they, finding out okay, I'm not charging what I'm worth. What would you suggest they do, or what would be the next steps for them?
Oh, that's a good question. I want to make sure I share the signs too, but because there's certain signs to know if you should raise your rates, and so we'll cover those in a minute. But as far as once you know that you are undercharging,
how do people know? I mean, because normally people, honestly, we could all say that, oh yeah, for sure, we definitely should be charging our rates. But then what's stopping us from doing it? And then as well as, I know I hesitate a lot because I know oh, well, I feel like I'm just starting out, or maybe if I get the attention of these people by doing it for free for, so long, but I can't keep doing it for free for 10 years.
Exactly. Yeah, so I definitely want to share that with everyone because I think it's really, really, really key. So some of the reasons that we don't charge our worth is, first of all, it's most always just a reflection of your own money stuff. So just to give a quick story, when I started my tutoring franchise, the first thing that happened is people would call me and they would say, what do you charge for this service? And even though I wasn't the tutor, I hired a staff of tutors, and they all had like master's degrees. And I mean, I was like shaking in my boots because I was 25 years old, a college dropout. I went and hired all these master's degrees teachers. And then it was my job to sell the service, right? And like match up the parent or match up the kids with the tutor and essentially sell to the parents, right? And so when I got the first question, like, what do you charge? I couldn't even breathe. You know, I just like had a lump in my throat. And what happened was I started giving discounts, and I started saying yes to whatever. If they're like, can you tutor 3 kids at once for the same price? I'd be like, okay, you know, just like different scenarios, or just like waiving the registration fee that we have, or just different kinds of discounting and things like that. And so this is to really get to the heart of the question is you have to delve into your money stuff. Because what happened for me is, thank God I had a business coach at that time. Like from the very beginning, it was such a smart decision, I think. So what happened is I went to her and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to pull the words back in my mouth. Every time I offer a discount, it's like unconscious. Like I'm not, my mouth is talking and I'm not trying to say that. I don't want to give a discount. And so she worked with me on my money stuff, and she worked with me on why I was doing that and what was like leading me to do that sort of involuntarily. And what it came down to was I was projecting my money relationship onto the clients. And so, you know, I was a single mom at the time. I was 25. I had sold my house, moved into an apartment. I didn't have extra money to invest in a private tutor for my kid. So when people were asking me the price, I thought it was expensive. Okay. And so I was projecting that onto them and thinking, oh my God, they can't afford it and it's so much and da 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 da. And you know, some people said it to me too. Some people were like, oh my God, that's expensive. Most people didn't, but it really only took like one person to have some kind of emotional reaction to my prices for me to just be like, oh my God, I'm a horrible person. Like so there's a lot going on there. I was projecting my own income and finances and what I could afford. I was projecting my own perceived value. It felt expensive to me. I was projecting that I was a bad person because, you know, some people, very few people, but again, it's like 1 or 2 people had like a negative reaction to my prices. And maybe they were in a situation like me where they couldn't afford it or something. And they just like had like a negative reaction. And so I took that on as like, I was a bad person and I was doing something wrong. So those are just for me, some of the things that came up. And I think it's similar, especially for a lot of people that I work with who are like healers and coaches, and even my tutoring business, that is a business to help kids, right? Help them succeed in school. It's no different than being a healer or a coach. It's service-based, it's heart-centered. That's why I chose it. And so when you're out there in the world, in the marketplace to do good, and then people have an emotional negative reaction to your pricing or your policies or whatever, and you haven't worked through some of your stuff, it's easy to feel like you've done something wrong, or you're bad, or you're not liked, this person doesn't like you now, or you're somehow the villain. And that's very common. There's a lot of other reasons, like, you know, I'm not qualified to charge that much. I also went through that. I remember one of my first consultations for the tutoring business, I had someone, the dad was like, well, where did you go to college? And that was like the question I was like avoiding completely. And over the 13 years running the business, I learned how to address that question confidently, and tell my story and my passion behind the business, and own the fact that, well, I don't have a college degree, you know. However, the tutors and the teachers, they have, you know, bachelor's and master's degrees, but they still wanted to know my credentials. And even some people asked me, like, what gives you the right to do this? And I have to say, in the beginning, I mean, I really had no business doing that business, to be honest. But as any entrepreneur, I had the ambition. So some of that I had to just grow and get experience because I was new at that. But a lot of people that come to me, and probably a lot of people that are watching this show or listening to this, you know, you have experience with what you do and you are good at what you do. It's not the first time that you've ever done it. So if someone questions your expertise or you're questioning your own expertise, there's usually something underneath that doesn't have to do with your expertise. In my case, and what I talked about, I didn't have expertise. So it was kind of normal for me to feel that way. But if you have expertise and you're questioning it, then there's usually other stuff going on that's the self-worth stuff. So, and then there's this other piece of like, people can't afford it, nobody will pay this much, and it's all bogus. It's all completely bogus. It's like 99% fabricated, made up stuff. That you're bad and wrong for charging, that people can't afford, that people won't pay this much, or that like you're not good enough. That it's all the stuff like in between our ears that literally gets in the way of that.
I know if that's something that's in your mind, that's the question that always gets pulled out. Like, it's crazy. It's like if you put your attention to it, then that's the one objection that you're always going to keep getting.
Yeah, the objection you fear is the objection you're going to get. You might as well just get it over with, you know, like, right?
Yeah.
Like when my clients do webinars, they're like, oh, I'm worried about the technology. Hey, it's going to go wrong the first time. Just go do your first webinar, or like go do your first sales call, or go do your first live stream. You're going to screw it up. It's fine. You need to get over that hump, right? And you need to work through the stuff that's coming up. If you're an expert in your industry, it's about owning your expertise, which is about owning your gifts. So, I mean, gifts and expertise aren't the same thing in my mind, but if you're fully owning your gift, then it's easier to own your expertise. Expertise can be developed. Your gift is your gift. No one can give it to you or take it away. It's intrinsic and you're born with it. Your expertise, like I can always get better and better and better and more knowledge, and I can always hone my skills. Your gifts are just there. I mean, I'm not saying that they can't maybe like be honed as well, but I think that there's nothing you can do to have it taken away. So if you own that first, a lot of people, we don't know our gifts very well. So we're just going off of our expertise. And so then it's hard to charge, because you're always like, one of my clients the other day was like, the more I learn, she's a health coach, the more I learn, the more I realize the least I know. Join the club. Like the more I learn about internet marketing, the more there is to know, right? Like there's so much.
Oh, always. Yes.
I mean, so if you're relying on your expertise if that's the only reason you're feeling like you could charge or that you can't charge, then, you know, you need to be looking at your gifts and owning that piece first. Like your spiritual gifts, the things you were, like what I shared in that story, I owned my passion. You know, I owned why I was doing it. And even though I didn't have any expertise at that time at all. Fortunately, I was with a franchise and a brand that was like backing me up. And that's why I chose to do that, because I was stepping into a brand that was already known. But we don't have that in a coaching business. We just get out there and we're like, oh, I'm on my own. I have to like promote myself. So yeah.
Cool. So are there any specific charging your worth tools or techniques or resources that you can share with people that that work on your clients?
Yeah, there are. So the funny thing about this is my formula is a very, how do I say it? It's the end of a day here. Intuitive, there we go. It's a very intuitive formula. So it's not so cut and dry. So I'm going to share some of the tools, but it's not so cut and dry. I actually don't tell people what to charge specifically. I will give ranges, and I'm just going to throw some ranges out there for coaches, healers, those types of people that might be listening. Is if you have a 90-day coaching program, $3,000, $2,500, that's like the low end. That's kind of normal for a lot for coaches who are making this their full-time business, significant income, and who are
Sorry, the audio keeps going crazy. I don't know if it's on my end. Hopefully it's okay.
Should we ask our guests if the audio is working?
Sometimes it's just like a blast of audio, like it's weird. I don't notice that.
Okay. Let us know in the comments if you guys can. So I was just saying that $2,500 to $3,000 is a very standard rate to charge for, like, say, a 90-day coaching, and that's sort of like on the low end. And this is across any niche. I don't care if you're a life coach, health coach, relationship coach. If you're a business coach, it could be even more. But those are just standard. And I like to share that because it helps people feel a little bit more comforted, like, oh, that's like normal and that's kind of what's out there. I don't think that we should base our prices based on what everyone else is doing out there. But I think it's good to know. It's good to have just kind of like what is kind of out there, what's like a foundational place.
That's just like straight coaching, right? Like sometimes, see, what I've been struggling with lately too is I've been creating a new package where I'm doing high level coaching, but sometimes because I have that techiness where I'm like, oh, well, you need a new website, you need this, you need that. I could do that too. But then I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I need to charge extra for that because that's not part of the high level one-on-one coaching. That's like done for you stuff.
Exactly.
Caught up in the weeds on that.
A lot of coaches out there and consultants, they just have this. I mean, you can certainly sell it separately, but a lot of times, I mean, that'll be like $3,000 a month. Coaching, implementation, and I get it because there are certain things in my business where I do implementation, like if it's copywriting or something. Like, I'm not going to build anybody's funnel. Thank you very much. I'm going to send them to Stacia. But I actually have someone on my team who has her own agency and builds out funnels, and it's a significant investment. You want someone to build out I don't know her exact prices, but just other consultants similar to her, like other agencies. Someone might charge $20,000 to build out a funnel for you. So it's the thing that we have to look at. So this is like where I said it was intuitive. So there's like the intuitive side, and there's the more tangible side, the tangible, practical, logical side. So it's like the masculine and the feminine, like the two sides, right? So on that logical, tangible side of charging, it's like, what is the value that you're bringing to the client? So what does it cost them to have the problem, and what is the value to solve it, and what's the ROI, right? So let's say I am teaching my clients how they can charge and receive $3,000 for a coaching program. Well, I could argue that that's worth $50,000, right? I could, because if someone goes on to do that for the rest of their career and continues to increase their price over time, how valuable is that skill set that they've built, right? Now, I typically wouldn't charge quite that much. It depends on exactly what the package is. But I mean, if you look at any business out there, like you can buy a pair of sunglasses for $10 and you can buy a pair of sunglasses for $10,000. So that's where we get into the other side. So the practical side is people go, oh, what can the market bear? Or what will people afford? Or all that kind of stuff. And that's not, in my opinion, that's not where like a high-end coaching service, and like a personal brand, that's not where you want to be thinking, because then you're letting the market determine your price instead of you putting your bar where you want to put your bar. And I think that's like the magic behind what I've done and what I help my clients do is, so that this is a tool, right? Where do you want to put your bar? Do you want to be Mercedes, or do you want to be, I like Mercedes. Do you want to be Mercedes, or do you want to be, what's a car that I used to have? A Geo Metro, okay?
But it's so funny. I was in a real estate group, and one of the ladies said her client had said, "You're too Louis Vuitton, and we're more like Skechers."
So that's good. Yeah. So, and I have a post that I wrote about this the other day. It's not a judgment. Like, some people would not go to Louis Vuitton and buy a $5,000 bag. Like, that is not of value to them. And that's okay. And then there's other people who would go buy a $5,000 handbag. And the value of how it makes them feel is worth $5,000 to them. And that's okay too. I want all of us, especially in like the coaching, healing, spiritual niches, to stop judging money and judging other people for their desires and their wants and whatever. I mean, I'm all about higher consciousness and like environmentals, like that's all good. I mean, I would like to see myself and the world go forward towards that, in that direction. So you could be like, oh, well, that's not environmentally friendly, but that's not really what I'm getting at. That's another topic. I'm just saying, if someone values a $5,000 handbag and somebody doesn't, who cares? Like, there's something for everyone on this planet. So you decide, this is the tool, you decide where you put your bar and your standard. Now, it doesn't mean that someone has like lower standards if they choose a different price point. Like, it doesn't bother me if someone, well, it does bother me if someone charges too low. I shouldn't say that. But like, if they're my client, if it's just somebody else, like, I don't care if someone charges whatever they want to charge. That doesn't matter to me. But because of the knowledge that I have about value, I see it differently. And I also know it can be challenging to build a business, especially like, a lot of people want to get to that 6 figures, or if you're at 6 figures and you're trying to scale, a lot of people get stuck there. Because if you're not charging appropriately, it's going to be really, really difficult. And you could start to get resentful and stuff like that. So you have to put your bar and your standard where you want it to be, and own that. And also, I think as you own your gifts more and you own the value of your expertise, you start to, as you're rising as like a thought leader, an influencer, an expert, you start to see more and more and more and more the value of it. And you start to feel like, I'm not going to roll out of bed for like nothing. You start to value your time more, right? You start to value your place in the world and your uniqueness and what you have to offer. And you just start to energetically own it more. So that's why I say it's kind of an intuitive process, and it's a process of removing the money blocks. So another tool, we've talked about setting the bar, but another tool would be, I'm a certified money coach. It's something that I enjoy doing that. I'm always working on I got my own stuff too. Like, it's an evolutionary process. I think it's not about being perfect with money, but you can peel back these layers and learn more and more, because money is this awesome mirror. And so a big tool to charging your worth is the money stuff. Like, I've had people who have taken, like, say, my home study version, where I don't get to work with them. And if they don't do the whole money mindset program that goes with it, I see a black and white difference in the people who do the money work on themselves and take the program on, creating packages and programs and charging and pricing, versus those who just took the program on pricing and packaging and all that good stuff. The ones who didn't do the money work on themselves, like their family money story, their family money legacy, all those pieces, if they don't do that, it's like, what would be a good analogy? It's like it's like just me saying, go charge $5,000. And nothing has been cleared. Beliefs haven't been challenged. Nothing has changed. And it's just like, okay, right? Or if someone's like, Jessica, go, go win a golf tournament. And I have not learned how to golf forever. That's not going to happen. I'm not going to successfully win a golf tournament. So it's kind of like that, right? Like, I don't just tell people, go do this, if they haven't done some of the work, because first of all, it backfires on them, it backfires on me, because they weren't ready. They were not ready to receive that amount of money. They were not ready to charge that amount of money. They didn't believe it in the first place. They might have thought in the back of their mind that they're scamming people. That's kind of a harsh term, but like, or that, like, yeah, like they're really not worth it. So they feel like it's the fraud complex. It's not a scam thing, but it's like a fraud complex, which feels like that. It feels like you're doing something wrong. So if you don't believe it, you really don't have any business. Like, don't charge something you don't believe, right? Like, we shouldn't do that. It's not good. But I have signs that I can share with you guys, like signs of how to know if you should increase your prices, because people ask me, oh my gosh, should I raise my prices? Like, if you're asking, that's a sign, right?
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's belief is huge. Belief, if you don't believe it, and how can you tell people they won't believe you if you don't believe it in yourself either?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the biggest challenges too is like, okay, we can say we're worth this much and we're going to charge this much, but then what? I was just telling a friend of mine who had reached out, and I haven't had a new program. She was like, oh my gosh, I wanted to do something similar to that. And but I was telling her, I was like, yeah, I'm so excited too, because I finally just created it and just put it out there. Because if you don't put it out there, and even if you could say that you want to charge this much, but if you're not telling people that you charge this much, that's another problem.
Yeah, well, and I think that's the biggest myth that I see, because I'm not the only one that coaches and teaches on charge your worth. Unfortunately, maybe it's not unfortunate, but one thing that's kind of been a bit of a thorn in my side, I guess, is it feels like everybody in the marketplace for coaches is saying charge your worth. And, people have gotten sick of that. I get negative comments. So first of all, I have a lot of positive comments, but there's always going to be some negative things. So I've gotten negative comments on my Facebook ads. People like, this is like the pulse of the industry, of the coaching industry, like people getting sick of like everyone talking about charge your worth and number, charge this much and blah, 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 blah. And I get it. I totally get how in the coaching industry, especially, or just like coaching, healing, creative, sort of online entrepreneurs that do those type of services, have gotten disenchanted with that messaging because it's oversaturated, and it sort of became just like a catchphrase, and I'm certainly not the first person to talk about it, but I made it my brand before it became just like whoosh, like everyone and their mother is saying charge your worth, right? So I kind of got in there right before I feel like it really spiked, and that became like the message that everybody was saying. And the problem with that is there is a myth that you just tell everybody charge your worth, and they'll be like, okay. And that there doesn't need to be any kind of work around it. So in our Permission to Charge Academy, we do attract a lot of entrepreneurs and coaches who have a somewhat established business. It's not where they want it to be, but they have clients, they're making some money, and they're ready to really like scale and go bigger. And then we also have people who are what I would call newbies. So maybe they have their coaching certification, or maybe they've never had a client. And I teach them to charge at least $2,500, $3,000 for a 90-day coaching package. And they do. They sell their first package a lot of times at like say $3,000, never having sold a coaching package before, program before. But I do that only because the people that come in are vetted. So who they are is a quality person and what they offer is quality. And so that's number one. It's not for everyone to just be like, oh, everyone should charge 10K just so you can charge 10K, right? It's going back to, are you bringing that value? Do you believe it? Is there an ROI here? What is the results you get for your clients? So if you don't feel like you get results for your clients, then, you know, we shouldn't be charging a certain amount, right? So there's a lot of layers of work. In my academy, we do all this business stuff, but the real work is all the personal development work that goes with it, because none of the business stuff works. So I'm talking funnels, webinars, you know, strategy, copy, messaging. None of it works. None of it matters when the personal development hasn't been done. And that's why it took me so long to get to where I wanted to go it was sort of short, but kind of felt really long to me. By the third year, that's when I had like my first 6-figure sales year. I thought it was just going to be year one, 6 figures, right? Because it's kind of how the tutoring franchise went. It was a lot easier to grow that. And I thought at that point I had been coached for like 10 years. So I thought I had done all the personal development work. There was a lot more, and there's more. So like, if someone wants to go to that next level, they want to put their standard up here and put their bar up here and be a super high-end coach. If you don't do the proper personal development work and do the specific, like create the specific changes within your belief system, it's not going to work for a coach to just tell you charge your worth, or like, you know, a lot of people are charging 3 to 5K, so you should too. And it's a lot of what I say in my messaging, but as you go deeper in the messaging, you'll hear me talk about this, which is what it's really about. It is about delivering value. It's not to charge or slap a zero on it because your coach said to slap a zero on it, right?
Can you tell us a little bit about your Raise Your Rate challenge where you help people get started?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So the Raise Your Rates challenge, it's a challenge and a training. So it's a very comprehensive training. It's completely free, first of all. It's talking about charging, right? I don't charge for this. So you can learn to charge your worth for free because I'm really passionate about the training. It's like essential training. It's like knowledge you must have. So it's a training that's very comprehensive, and it's a 5-day challenge. So over 5 days, you get training in your inbox every day. And then every day there's a challenge, an assignment. By the end of the 5 days, you will raise your prices with confidence, happily, with more ease. And I cover a lot in there. Some of the things I cover are the 12 signs that you need, to raise your rate. So it's kind of like a 12-point checklist for you to figure out, okay, it's undeniable, I need to raise my prices. So you go through those 12 steps and see which ones you resonate with. There's an entire training on value-based pricing versus cost-based pricing. Most of you guys are out here doing cost-based pricing. Well, it's, my time's probably worth $85. Okay, so I'll charge $85 a session, right? So that's cost-based pricing. It's not the right way to price high-end services. It's not the way to price any services for that matter if you want to stay in business. So it's going to train you on cost-based pricing versus value-based pricing. And also, it's going to give you a whole money mindset training that you can go through. My clients sometimes read this multiple times a year. It's like a really good refresher. And you can get it at raiseyourrateschallenge.com. And I put my heart and soul into it. It's pretty juicy and long emails, but you got to read them because that's the training is there. You will be in 5 days. You will not be the same person because you will have gotten this deep education. You won't look at your prices the same way. You won't look at your business the same way. You're like the whole thing is going to open up and you're like, oh, I get it now. It's really powerful.
And you have a group.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Oh, thank you for putting that. Hey guys, I'm just seeing who's here. So our Facebook group is the Permission to Charge community for go-getter gals. It's really geared towards coaches, healers, kind of like creative entrepreneurs. We have some virtual assistants in there too, and probably some graphic designers. But it's kind of geared towards coaches and those that are in a similar industry. I think we have like 2,700 coaches in there now. So would love to hang out with you in there. And I've got, if you click on the video section of my Facebook group, I've got tons of training in there too.
Awesome. And she goes live in there and everything every once in a while. It's awesome group. I'm going to put it in the comments.
Thank you.
Guys, this is good stuff. So I highly, mindset is like everything to me, guys. Mindset's like everything. You can have, you guys know me. I like I like strategy. I like talking about all the cool tools and landing pages and click funnels. But if you don't have the mindset, I'm also managing a real estate investment fund right now. And we have these new callers and they're like, nobody's answering the phone. And I'm like, that's just the nature of the business. If you think positively, that's the person, or they say, all I'm getting is jerks. Where'd you get this list from? There's just jerks. I'm like, oh, that's
leads. Complaining about the leads.
That's you, dude.
Podcast.
It's like
it's such a good point that you bring up because so in my tutoring franchise, that was my first business. When I thought I was getting like emotional by other people's emotional reactions, right, about my pricing. Well, eventually I raised the hourly rate by like $12 an hour. Like I went from like back in the day, this is a long time ago, it was like $39 an hour, and then it was $50, and then it went to $60. I made a big jump by like $10 an hour or something. And it was so funny. It was like, I suddenly felt like, oh, I'm not really getting like all those negative Nellies anymore. And the truth of it was, I got to a point where I was confident in that pricing. I understood what it took to run the business. I understood the effort I had to outlay. I understood the value. And I just was like, if someone really was upset with the pricing, I would be like, hey, here's some free resources. The community has some free tutoring, whatever. And I just felt confident in that particular caller wasn't my ideal client, and I didn't get emotional about it anymore. And so in reality, I didn't start getting less complaints per se. It just wasn't on my radar anymore. It would just be like, oh, okay, no problem. Here's some free resources. And like, it didn't bother me anymore because I changed my mindset. And I felt like people just started to be like, okay, I would tell them the price, be like, okay, cool. Let me write a check. I remember one time, my first high-end package I ever sold was not in my coaching business, was in my tutoring business. I think it was an SAT program, and I want to say it was like right around $2,000. And so Kwaku, my husband, is our sales coach for our academy. And he does role plays and he trains everybody. So he was my boyfriend at the time, and he would just grill me with these like sales role plays. It was horrible because it's hard to be coached by your boyfriend or your partner, right? And he would like practice with me. And I just remember the parents were there and I was sitting here, and I had the contract like facing them, and I was going through the contract. And then it was like, okay, so, it's 1997, blah, blah, blah. And I just remember sitting there and just kind of being like I could feel sweat like coming down my face. And I learned this actually to just shut up. Let people process your price. Let them process it. So the dad like looked at it and was like, had some sort of face or whatever. I don't know what it was. He had some kind of reaction, and I just was like stone cold. I didn't move a muscle or say anything. And after, it felt like 60 seconds. It was probably 3 seconds, but it felt like a long time. He goes, okay, let me get my checkbook. And I walked out of there with a check. It was a paid in full instead of like a payment plan. And, you know, I delivered the service. I mean, I didn't do anything wrong. He wanted the program. I sold the program and we delivered it. It was great. But it was so funny how like fearful I was. And it was like, you know, like by now I've done over 1,000 consultations for the tutoring business. And I think over probably more, I feel like more than 1,000 for the coaching business. A lot. And I've sold over 1 million of each services, tutoring and coaching. And they're all kind of the same. It's academic coaching, basically. Same thing as coaching. So I've sold over 2 million of this. I need to get some final numbers because I think it's kind of interesting, but I've gotten the numbers to where I know it's over that. And it's just crazy how we are so fearful about the price. Like, money is energy. We're exchanging value, but somehow, well, we have a lot of programming that's negative in our society about money, right? But it's just an exchange of value. Like, why do we make it so bad and wrong, right? And so that's what we have to get under the hood of. And if we don't, it's never gonna change. You can't easily rise to the top of your industry when you're still hanging on to any negative thoughts about money.
Do you have any favorite books that you could recommend about money?
Ooh, I should have been prepared with this.
Sorry, I gotta jump that.
You know what? Let me see something, because on my website, I actually have listed
a blog post for that.
Well, I don't even think it's a blog post. I have a whole section of money mindset
resources.
I almost don't want anybody to go to my website right now because I'm getting a new one soon and it's totally messed up and doesn't work. And we should totally do a podcast on why you can be super successful even if your website's kind of funky. Yeah, actually it's so funky right now that the tabs aren't even there. So fortunately I have an awesome branding team, but I have this money mindset bookstore, but I don't think I can grab the link right now. I'm going to tell you, yeah, I'm not finding the page. Darn, because I would love to give you guys my whole, oh, here it is. Let's see. Money Mindset Bookstore. Here it is. I think I can give you, so it's, yeah. Oh, doesn't work. Okay, good to find this out live, right? While everybody's watching. So on my new website, it's probably going to be another 6 to 8 weeks, but on the new website, you guys will see that Money Mindset Bookstore. So one that comes to the top of mind is, I love this book. It's called How Rich People Think. This is a really good book. It's not like the deep coaching and journaling exercises, which is also one reason why it's a great book to have. It's like a toilet book. Like you could just open a page and just read one page. So that I love. And there's a lot of pages to that book. I mean, it's hefty. That one is great. It will transform your mindset about becoming wealthy and being rich. It's amazing. And you guys will be able to find it. I can't think of the author right at this moment, but just go to Amazon, How Rich People Think. I know that was in our bookstore. And then, oh, thank you. The other one that is more of the deep inner work is called The Energy of Money. That is a great book, The Energy of Money. That one, if you want to do the money work on yourself, I mean, I haven't done all of that book because it's so, it's pretty deep. Like you could probably spend 100 hours reading the book, doing the journaling exercises, and reading the next chapter. Like it's intensive. So that one, if you're really committed to transforming it, I do like that one. I agree with a lot of what she has there. And then there's other pieces that I like to expand in the way that I think about stuff. But overall, I highly recommend that. And then if you pair that with how rich people think, that's good. Oh, a free book you can get right now. I'm sure you know this one, Stacia. You can go on Google and put what is it called? The Wallace Wattles one. The Science of Getting Rich. The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. Probably 50 years old. You can just put Science of Getting Rich PDF and you'll be able to just download the PDF for free. You don't have to pay for it. That one is really good as an alternative to Think and Grow Rich. It's a little easier, I think, to read, not so much of the story of some of the stuff in Think and Grow Rich.
Okay. Have you ever it's the 4 laws of free posture.
Oh, that looks like a good one. Ooh, I want to read that one. That looks really good.
It talks about it's a really good story because it tells you about like your chess moves. Your next move is yours. Like it's all about kind of integrating money and how to play chess.
I love that. That's really cool. Yeah, there's so many great money books out there. The Wallace Wattles one, I think, is another one where it's very, very monotonous. Like you're like, I just read that. Like he's saying the same thing over and over, and that's why it's good because it's hypnotic. That one you just keep reading every day forever the rest of your life, and I think that's why that one is a good one too.
Good one. I'm gonna have to do that. And always Think and Grow Rich, guys.
Yeah. I did a whole mastermind on that, even though some of the stories in there are a little harder to relate to. It's very like men focused. It's like kind of old, but ultimately the points that he makes are really, really solid. My favorite chapter is the one on specialty, because if you create a specialty, which is a niche, you can charge whatever you want. One of my mentors is over $150K per year for actually for less than a year for private coaching. And there's a lot of people out there that will charge you $100K or more for that, or people that will charge you. A mastermind I was in last couple years over $60K per year. So it's like, it's not about the money it's not about the number. If you make it mean something, sure, but it's an energetic exchange going on, and it's how you value that, and how you value it is how other people will value it. Right?
Is there anything that I haven't asked you about charging your worth, or the truth, or the misconceptions that people have that many entrepreneurs suffer from that you'd like to share?
Oh, goodness. Other misconceptions. We talked about the myth of just slapping a 0 on it and calling it good. So that's not going to work. Wish it were that easy, right? You just bypass the personal development. Other misconceptions. So you kind of mentioned this about the bad leads situation. I think actually this is important. So this will be the final thing. A lot of times what I hear from people is they'll be like, I'm not getting quality people on the phone. And some of that there's truth. Like they are just not the right people, and that's fine. But there's this other blurry area where like people will say,
don't waste your time trying to convince people that aren't the right people.
Yeah, that you don't need to do. However, someone will say, well, I'm not making any sales, so I think I'm charging too much. This one kills me, because I'll say, are you getting any consultations or discovery sessions, or how many are you getting? Not very many. Well, how many?
This is a good one. I noticed that I wanted to mention too is knowing your numbers, because we just talked earlier, just knowing that you've sold and you've done these presentations 1,000,000 times. And like, if we don't know those numbers, I can
totally talk about the numbers. And this is kind of a segue into it, is they'll say, well, I'm not having sales conversations. Okay, so you don't have a pricing problem. You have a lead gen problem. Okay. So I talked about this a lot. You can go into doubt mode or diagnosis mode. I'm in diagnosis mode. I'm going to show you right now how to do diagnosis mode. Doubt mode is, oh my God, my price is off. Like just arbitrary stuff that's not even true, thinking that that's the problem with your business. If you're saying I'm not selling, I think it's my price, and you don't have sales conversations, you have a lead gen problem. You're not generating enough leads. If you have 3 to 5 consultations every week, or even if you have 8 per month, but you're not selling anything, then you're going to go, oh, but Jessica, I've had 8 consultations this month and nobody bought. I think my price is too high. No, 97% of the time, that is still not the problem. You have a sales problem. Now, sometimes there's a positioning challenge and a messaging challenge that's behind that as well. But you need to work on your selling skills. That is the main issue, because you really don't have that big of a positioning and messaging problem if 8 people booked on your calendar to talk to you about your services. Can't be that bad, right? So it's your sales skills. It is not your price, because you can throw out to me any niche right now, any niche, and I will tell you someone who's charging $10,000 for the sunglasses and someone who's charging $10 for the sunglasses. Like, it's across the board. We live in a universe where everyone's connected. There's over 2 billion people on Facebook. There's 10 people who will buy a 10K whatever from you this year, and that's 100K. It's not that hard unless you make it hard. If you decide that it's really hard for you, then it's going to be really hard for you. So you have to know your numbers, because otherwise you're going to make up in your mind that it's the wrong stuff. And I created this big vision planning program. If any of you dare to go to my website, you can find it. It's jessicariverson.com. I think it's on there, one of the sales pages. It's like a $97. It's my only super, super low end program. And I created it because I saw all of us entrepreneurs not tracking numbers. And so we're just making up stuff about our business that's not true. It's the whole tracking system so that you know the truth about your business. I mean, I have yet to come to the conclusion for any of the hundreds of people that I've worked with that their price is the problem. The only time that the price is maybe the challenge is if we're talking about selling a home study program straight off the internet. We're not talking about that here. That's different. I'm talking about pricing for your services, whether they're done for you or coaching or done with you or whatever. We're not talking about products like a monthly membership site or a home study product that you're selling, digital products. We're not talking about digital products. We're talking about your services, that one-on-one services. I have yet to have anyone discover with anyone that the price is actually their problem. Now, you may end up having different price points for people, right? And that's fine. You can have your high end and your middle and your lower end, but it usually comes down to a lead generation problem and a sales problem. So if you're thinking that if you're a coach, I can answer it for you now, and I pretty much did. You should have 3 to 5 consults per week. If you're charging a lot, maybe you don't need or want to have that many. That's fine. That's at a higher level. But if you're in some other niche or some other industry, you should go find the most successful person in that industry and be like, hey, how many sales conversations do you have every month? Mm-hmm. If they have the same model as you, right? They do one-on-one coaching or whatever it is. And then you'll have an idea so I don't have enough sales and I don't have enough leads going on. It's not my price. Because if you believe in your price and you are positioning yourself and your messaging is towards that ideal client who would invest in that, then you should be able to enroll, half at least of the people that you talk to, maybe more, depends how warmed up they are.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
And I'm going to just zip it because I can.
I know. Talk forever. I know I can do it. But thanks you guys. Thanks all of the entrepreneurs and ladies and men, of course. I mean, Jessica works with mostly women in our group, but she also coaches men, and her husband are a great team as well too. So that could be a whole nother show. Maybe we have both of them on a couple show one day.
Yeah, sales, selling.
But thanks again, guys. If you want to get a hold of Jessica, you can go to jessicariverson.com. I'll have the show notes, and we'll also get a list of the books that we both like as well and put those in the show notes. That's going to be at staciakennedy.com/EP08. This is episode 8 that you're watching of the Stacia Kennedy Show. Thank you so much again, Jessica, and for sharing with us and all the entrepreneurs. And hopefully you guys have taken this inspirational interview and, want to charge your worth, take a step up, take it to the next level, start getting more conversations. A lot of the times people come to me because it is a lead gen problem. It's not what you're charging. It's getting enough people, in the door to know about you and your message. So get in front of more people. That's the first step. And it's one of my 4 steps as well. It's like, you got to see the people, then tell your story, and then, keep following up. So you guys, thanks again. And I just want to say much love and aloha as always. And we'll see you on the next show.